Hi, welcome all to the panel. My name is Carrie Hopkins-Iles, and I'm the Deputy Director for ICUDDR, and we're so glad to have you here today for our panel on students' experience of higher learning during COVID-19. So this was a panel that was suggested by our conference committee, and I think it was a fabulous idea to get the perspective from our students who, we've talked a lot about from the faculty level, how do we manage emergently moving to online learning? And we've tried to make sure we're engaging our students and that we make it a good experience for them. But now we get to have firsthand some information from at least a couple students, as well as one of our students is going to share some data that he was able to collect. So I think this will be really helpful. And I'd really like to encourage questions. If you use the Q&A or the chat, Q&A is a little bit easier for us to see. Then anything you put, we can ask the students, and I think that will make for a really robust discussion and a nice conversation rather than just them presenting. So we know it's of critical importance to understand students' perspective in university education. And in this panel, we have some students from around the globe who will share their experiences of shifting to online learning. And we're going to start with Ariel, and he is from Paraguay. And I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, as I am terrible at pronouncing names. So I'm going to give it over to you.
Hello to everyone. Ariel Cueto, or Ariel, doesn't matter. I'm from Paraguay. I am 21 years old. I am at the Universidad Católica Nuestra Señora de la Asunción, at the capital city, Asunción. And I'm at the fourth year, 8th semester. Well, I just passed the 8th semester, if I finish all my exam properly, of course. And I gather some data from my classmates, and I hope it's very useful to everyone to have a proper aspect, probably of how the semester went for us and how we could improve it if it's possible. And I just try to get a whole perspective of my colleagues, and then share some reflection and conclusions about what I personally think and how everything went for me in the semester and probably the year and a half of pandemic situation. Okay, should I continue with the slides right now? Awesome. So, well, let me check here. So, the perception about online classes, that's my title for it. And can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so let me just pull it up myself because I cannot see it properly. One second. Here we go. Okay, so just to pair in context a little bit, in a study made in 2019, we have 44 universities, 8 are publics and 46 are privates. The Catholic University Nuestra Señora de la Asunción was founded in 1960, and the psychology career started at 1963. Always in presential format, of course, until, of course, March 2020. If we can proceed to the next one. Well, the little study I made here is a population that I share with my psychology students. The total population of students at our university, the Asunción campus, are 530. And the way I sent this forms was via WhatsApp, and a group of each president of the classroom. So like each semester has a president, and they were like responsible probably to send to the rest. But sadly, I only got 64 answers, which I hope is enough. The form has a Likert type scale from 1 to 5. If we can go to the next one, let's see the data. So, the level of satisfaction with online classes. 39% dissatisfied with classes during the pandemic. 35% neither satisfied nor dissatisfied with the classes in general. And the 33% satisfied what they have learned in class. So probably here we can see a dissatisfaction towards how the classes went and how probably the method is during the virtual classes, and how probably they are not as dynamic or as engaging as the student would like to be. But either way, a decent percentage still learning from them, because the other percentage I did not put here is that they are like indifferent toward what they have learned. They're neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. But I just want to highlight that there's a 33% that actually could learn something from the classes. Next one. Okay, so the platform usage difficulty. It's we use Google Classroom. There's a 39% that says are easy and manageable. And there's a 30% that shows that it's very easy and manageable. So we can see a 69% here of the students that can easily manage the platform and go through the assignments and probably chat to their teachers often. Next one. Well, in studying online, a 32% completely disagrees with the idea of finishing their studies online. A 44% agrees to have adapted to online classes, and the 44% again disagrees to have developed same competencies as those developed in a personal format. So we can see probably a completely dissatisfaction, in my opinion, towards how the virtual format is affecting. I would most likely guess that this is due to the fact of the lack of practical experience and only more of a theoric point of view, since getting into practical practices been really rough this year and a half so far. Next one. The dedication and commitment affected by change from presential to online format of classes. So a 27% completely agrees that the change has affected them, and a 32% agrees that the change has affected. So this completely agrees and agrees are due to the fact that it was a 1 to 5 Likert types scale. So we can clearly see that being at home, being like you would only wake up for classes. Basically, like most of my classmates just woke up for classes, and you woke up like your class was at 8 and you're gonna wake up at 7:50. Like probably take your breakfast like in front of your computer or at your table. So probably the commitment and dedication, the focus you do to the class, it's completely dependent to the student. It's remarkable the responsibility that the student has in virtual education. Next one, please. Okay, the adaptation to online classes. 43% of the students have shown that teachers are knowledgeable of ICT to do online classes. 35% disagrees that the career adapts to online format. And the 50% of students completely agrees to have adapted to online format. So I would say like the students say here, we adapted pretty nice and neat, you know. Sometimes the students, we are like kind of, I don't know, probably the younger we are, the easier it is for us to get engaged into the online format. But I was really impressed that most or almost half of the population thought that the teachers had some knowledge over the ICT, because we have some teachers that are pretty I don't want to say old, right, but higher age, and they gave their best. I had one of my favorite teachers. It's probably 60-ish. I don't know. Can't remember the age, but she gave it all. She like called a personal technician. It's like, I need you to get this installed to me in my computer by tomorrow. It's like she gave it all for like to have everything she needed to give the classes. It was always been in personal format, a really given teacher, and also tried its best during the online commitment. Next one, please. Well, the feeling of incapability towards continuing online classes. I had a few classmates that drop out because of this. 15% have felt incapable. 26% completely disagrees to have felt incapable, and the 23% disagrees to have felt incapable. So we can see a higher amount of students that could continue in an online format despite of every obstacle they could have affronted. But a 15%, I probably will think this would have been much higher if the 530 students would have answered this. I probably guess that because I have a lot of people tell me like this is not working, I'm not learning anything, and they were just probably shuttering themselves and telling themselves that they're just not going to learn about it. And that was probably the mistake I saw during this pandemic. Ourselves shuttering our own selves. Next one, please. So the last point of this form, I put this little description here that says psychology career must be. And the 83% agrees that there could be some subjects that can be taught online, but practical subjects just can't. They got to be in person. It's not the same in clinical practice. Have someone in front of a screen where there could be some technical issues. Then having in person, of course, you can probably see a leg moving and could be a sign of something, or or any other type of sign. And I probably would agree here for the more theory classes, but the problem in online classes is that the responsibility that the student bears is high, and it's got to be on you to make the path. Next. Well, here's some conclusions. We've probably just been discussing the whole thing, and I will more likely to answer to some of your questions. And I've been told I was supposed to talk 15 minutes, so sorry if it's too short. And well, little reflection I did. I write something. I hope you guys like it. I sometimes write from like inspiration, and when I was doing this, something popped in my heart, and I was like, okay, probably we'll share this. Okay. I'm shaking, so I hope I don't destroy the whole narrative. Okay. So the uncertainty has struck. We have nothing more to do than provide an answer and react to the situation. And that is the case for all of our human existence. A virus created by humanity or not was indeed struck from behind. We were caught off guard. As an initial reaction, we tried to make much effort. Sometimes we saw it as an impossible challenge and transform a whole university that was 100% presential to 100% virtual. That's sometimes what we must do, the impossible. So far, from my point of view, my university and their teachers have made a lot of improvement in this year and a half. It's definitely not the same like the first semester we had back in March 2020. I also think that without the efforts of the teachers, this just would have not worked. They also have to adapt their materials, knowledge, method, timing, lifestyle, etc. to take the challenge. Ain't an easy job. A lot change, and so we must. We as students bear the responsibility of making our own future, to be the professionals we want to become. We're not only, this could be misunderstood, so if you want me to explain later, I did not know how to translate this properly. We're not only a being, we are more of a being. Students must realize that they bear the mark of their future now. College, in my point of view, is just one floor. We have to rebuild the rest. books, article, dialogues, they're all an essence of someone or something. They all teach something. We can all learn from them. See what we enjoy, see what we don't enjoy. Just like life, we have to be prepared for the inevitable future. Well, that's my little reflection there. That's probably a whole summary of my personal opinion. Personally, well, my experience, I love video games. You can see my little gaming chair, right? So I love video games. My headset, like I love. It's what I've been doing my whole life. And when quarantine starts, I probably did not pay that much attention to classes and was playing video games. But I was listening to the class while playing video games. I was like multitasking. We're kind of good at that. It's it's never the best. And then I realized, like, I'm not going to learn anything from this. Like, I'm learning, but is it college enough? Is it what the teachers are giving us enough? So then I realized that I've always enjoyed philosophy. I've always enjoyed reading, but I stopped it because I had too much free time. And then I just thought, okay, what don't we just, everyone's doing courses online. Everyone's doing webinars. Everyone's learning what they know. Why don't we just probably grab some of it and learn from, like, myself? It's not gonna be all the teachers. The teachers is just a portion of what they know. I mean, they cannot teach everything in one single class. It's only an hour. So I was like, okay, so probably I should read, and I should read articles. I should read books, and I should find what I like. I've always enjoyed Viktor Frankl in first semester, so I always enjoy philosophical existentialism. So yeah, I found that, and I fell in love with this year and a half, and I totally mark the students for being responsible, and to be responsible for the future now, not tomorrow, not in a week, not in a month. Now, future is now, future is now. The past is now, future is now, present is now. We could explain it. It's rough, but everything is now. It's not like I'm probably gonna go off the branches, but we can probably discuss it philosophically later on. And the being, there's an author, I think it's an Argentinian author called Jerónimo Acevedo. He says, el ser siendo, a being. We're not what we are now. That was also what Viktor Frankl says. We're not what we are now. We are what we could become. We are what we could become. We always see ourselves in the future. We ourselves today, we do not define us. Who we are now doesn't define who we are. We can always become someone else and become better person. We grow. We don't stay in one place. We move. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, amazing. We'll definitely come back to you and ask some questions or clarify some points. That was really lovely and very inspiring, and I really appreciate your time and your experience, both your experience and the experience of your peers, which sounds like that was a little bit different. So I think that's really helpful for all of us. And I'm going to now move on to Neff and have him introduce himself, and we will circle back around and do questions and more discussion after. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for inviting us over today to share about our experience in the online learning. So I also would like to express my gratitude to my professor, who's also here today, Prof. Berna Felipe from the College of St. Benilde, De La Salle University. So I was told that I have to share about my experience in online learning. But as I was listening to Ariel, I actually was reminded of a lot of things that I went through and I'm still going through as a as an online learner, and later on I'll be sharing a little more about that. um, just to share about what where I'm coming from. So I'm actually a faculty, an assistant professor from the University of the Philippines. So I teach, and at the same time I'm also a learner. And I think I need to disclose that because uh, when you are a teacher, sometimes you have a different perspective about online learning. You know, we've been doing the teaching learning process, delivering lessons on a face-to-face modality, and we have this idea that that's the best way to teach our learners because that's we've been used to doing. Then the pandemic came, and all of a sudden we were confronted about having to teach in a different modality. So during the earlier part of the pandemic, I thought, although I had experience before way back in online learning as a student, so I already enrolled in online learning classes previously. But uh, during the start of the pandemic, I said, I for me to be able to understand my students more, I need to again experience what they are going through as a student myself. So I took courses online, and since I'm preparing for my PhD program in addictive disorders, I said I want to enroll courses online which focuses on addiction and mental health, and that's actually where I encountered this program, a certificate course in substance use intervention from the College of Saint Piniel. So this is actually a two course certificate program wherein we were taught on the first one we were taught about the basic of assessment and screening addiction for substance use. Then the other class focuses on more on intervention, like doing basic counseling, appropriating it in the context of addiction. So it's designed in that way wherein you get the basic theoretical stuff from at the start, and then you are given, you know, trained on a more practical level, intervention wise on the second course. So so I enrolled that course as a student, and on the side, I've also been trying to enroll short courses on the same topic. So I had taken this global mental health course from the University of Washington, which is a two month course delivered online. So when I when I was there, I said what one thing I realized that as a teacher I need to be more compassionate to my learners because I realized that while we've been used to learning, been used to studying, there is a different demand when you enroll in an online learning class, and many of the things that Ariel mentioned earlier are actually characteristic of that. So uh, to share my experience, I just listed down some of the challenges I encountered and some of the best practices that I think helped me a lot as a learner in those courses. And perhaps later on during the open discussion, we can probably talk about a little more on these challenges and best practices. So talking about the challenges as a learner enrolled in these courses, I would have to agree with Ariel earlier when he said that the one of the main challenges is managing time and resources. Because I'm also, you know, I have a job, so I work as well. I have to focus on work. I need to meet the requirements for my office, but at the same time, I also have to meet the requirements by my professor. So because while it is delivered online, I still have to be able to gain the competencies that that particular course have. For me to be able to say that when I get that certificate, I'm sure somehow that I truly have the skills that that particular certificate says it offers to the learner. So, but it is easier said than done. So I I really have to check on the planner, and there were many times I have to admit that there are a lot of requirements that I cannot submit on time, and I really needed to ask for the patience of my professors because I had to I had to prioritize. And sometimes, if you are taking courses online, as a if you are a working student, as a learner who is also working, sometimes the online classes that you're enrolled in comes at the second of the priority. So you tend to set aside the the demands of that particular course. But it's not only time that you have to manage, also the resources, because like in the Philippines, we don't have the best internet connectivity. So there's always this fear that you will get disconnected anytime in the class, especially for synchronous sessions. And even also when you are doing a synchronous modality, like when we're given resources, taking time to download these resources is it also takes a lot of resources from you, like when you download the materials that your professors need. Um, another challenge that I encountered really was cognitive focus. Like the, the you have to really motivate yourself to attend the class. Since as I said, usually it takes the second priority, but because you want to learn the content, you have to really motivate, really condition your mind that this thing that you're enrolling in is important to you, and this is important in your practice, important in your career. So you have to spend time and resources for it. Otherwise, uh, you will you will just you will just end up enrolling and not finishing it, and which I was really so afraid of, because you already you also invest money on it, you invest time, and then you will not be able to finish it. So it's really not something that you feel good about in the end. Another challenge that I think I resonate with Ariel is when he said that um, you tend to ask, because you have this kind of attitude towards remote learning. You tend to ask, is what I'm getting from this program enough uh, to to make me really say that I'm competent in this particular field that I'm enrolling in, or that I'm learning. So because you have that kind of attitude, uh, well, in my case, what it made me do is that it made me overcompensate. So there's a compensation dilemma. Like you enroll several courses on the same topic. Like I of course I have this certificate program, and I really believe that this is a very good program. In my experience, the program that I had on the certificate in substance use intervention is well designed. But because you have that kind of feeling that I think I should know a little more about it still, so you tend to look for other courses that would supplement your whatever you had. So you tend to compensate that feeling of insufficiency by taking a lot of courses, and eventually you realize that you're learning the same thing in two or three different courses, and then you end up spending more resources in the end. Um, the webinar epidemic, I think, is one of the one of the thing that like from a third person perspective, one of the things that we can see is an impact of this feeling of compensation. Like we observed that during the pandemic, there's this boom in webinars, and people were during the earlier part of the pandemic, people were just wanting to attend, but eventually they get fatigued, they get tired, and they realize that, okay, I'll be attending things that matter to me. And I think for as a learner, that's also one of the direction that I am taking now. I realize that I have to be choosy also on the programs and the webinars that I'm attending online. So what these are challenges that I encountered. So what are the best practices that I think helped a lot to me and I think to my classmates as well, because what's good about the program I enrolled in, where Prof. Berna is my professor, is that we were encouraged to communicate with my classmates, even if we're apart. We are students from the different parts of the Philippines, just enrolled in this learning management system. So we had the opportunity to chat one another and email one another. One of the best practices that I think has to be considered is offering sufficient learner support to the students. You have to, like, as a learner, I really appreciate that I have multiple access to my teachers. I can access my teacher by email. She gave her mobile number, work number. So just in case there's problem with internet connectivity, I can still contact her via WeChat or mobile, especially when problems arise. So that I think is one of the best practices that I encountered. Multiple access to learner support. Another one is balancing the opportunities for autonomous or independent and cooperative learning. Like, personally, I I am more of an independent learner. So when I'm given this set of materials, I can learn the materials on my own. I love reading and watching these videos that are posted. But there are things also in the lessons that you only gain appreciation about when you talk to your classmates, and there also has to be this kind of opportunity. um, just to share, in the program that I'm enrolled in, one of the reasons why I actually enrolled that program is that I am interested in addiction and substance use intervention. My training is in counseling, but I really don't have any previous experience in addictions counseling. So I said, I because there's this program, and many of the students in that program are practitioners. So I thought, one of the greatest learning that I can get from that program is I'm able to talk to my classmates and hear from them what they are doing in their own centers. And true enough, because of those cooperative learning experience that we had, I was able to gain that kind of knowledge that I couldn't have had if I only relied on the materials that were downloaded. Sufficient flexibility is important for us to to address the time and resource issues, and I really appreciate it when the professor clearly identifies the required deliverables, but at the same time have some leeway or negotiates with the students. Like, she asks us whether it's okay if the submission of this requirement can be set on this particular date, or do we need some more time for us to be able to deliver this particular requirement. So that kind of flexibility is greatly appreciated by us learners in this online setting. Uh, the fourth one of that I think we need also to look into, which I got reminded also by the sharing of Ariel earlier, has something to do with the learning management system. Because of course we have Moodle, we have how do you call it, Canvas, we do others use Google Classroom. So there are just a lot of learning management systems that the teachers use. Uh, like in my case as a teacher, I use Google Classroom because that's the free one. But when I experienced as a learner that there are other learning management systems which are easier to use, I realized that really those schools or universities should really focus on picking the learning management system which is easiest to navigate, because it reduces the anxiety from the student. Like, it when materials are easily accessible, you feel a little more competent in your learning. Like, I can just easily access this anytime, if even if some things go on, like, or even if I'm traveling, like, I can just read on the material, so it makes you a little more competent and confident in your course. And finally, which brings me to the last best practice that I think I appreciate is more on the assessment, authentic assessment. I think I agree with Ariel that as a learner, sometimes you also think whether you how you are getting evaluated in this kind of modality. Like, okay, when I get a score of 100, am I really good at it? I mean, of course, you're happy that you get a high grade from that particular course or you get a good mark on that particular requirement. But because we're adult learners, so we also ask like, okay, I get this 80, this mark. Am I really good at it now that I get this one? So, uh, as in that aspect, I appreciate when my professor really provided authentic assessment. Like we were asked to really administer a particular screening tool. We were asked to administer a simulated interview and using the addiction severity index, which it's better than being asked objectively what are the parts of this particular index or what are the components that you measure. So we get to experience doing it. And one thing that I will never forget is that I think on the second course, we were tasked to do a simulated counseling session on a particular case. And perhaps I also had counseling. I mean, I counsel students before. I also received mentorship from my professors before, but when I had it in this particular course, which is focused more on addiction, which I had no experience about, I realized that I still have a lot of things to learn and a lot of opportunities for growth, even when it is delivered online, as long as the professor provides you with feedback about your demonstration. So I really appreciate that. It was only, I think, an hour of meeting with my professor. I was really very nervous, which is quite funny because that's not the first time that I'm doing counseling demonstration. But I during that hour, I think I learned a lot about addictions counseling, more than I could have learned in a week long or a month long training without that authentic experience. So I really appreciate that kind of immediate feedback on how I am doing. So with all this, I also listed down four insights and conclusion, just like what Ariel did earlier. So given these challenges and the practices that I really appreciate, um, I I had this insight that first, even during the pandemic, learning should continue. It really helps, of course, learning is a little more difficult now, the pandemic during the pandemic, but it should continue because personally, uh, my aspirations about my career does not stop because of the pandemic. You have your aspirations also about your career. You want to finish your education. You want to be able to do this particular task, which you can only do if you receive the training that you need. So learning should continue if you want to continue also with your life. Otherwise, everything will be at freeze. But even as we do that, continue learning, we need to really be patient with one another. One thing that I realized is that I really need to be patient with the learners. As a teacher, I need to be that. But at the same time, I also have to be more patient also with myself as a learner. Like if there are things that I'm not learning in the same way or manner that I learned before, I have to accept that limitation. Otherwise, like what I did earlier during the start, I'll just be beating myself too much, and it will cause unnecessary distress because really this is a different time. We are not in a typical normal situation. So we have to really accept that. And there should be primary importance given on well-being. Like, of course, we have learning competencies, we have learning deliverables, but at the end of the day, we ask, why are we doing all these in the first place? Like, if all these will put at stake my well-being, then is it all worth it? I really have to reflect on that. So what I realize is that well-being should be put at the prime importance in all these things that we are doing. And finally, is that all these can only be made possible if we really commit to some sort of a caring and compassionate learning community. That, of course, we want honor, we want excellence, we want all these. But as we do that, you should not forget being caring, being compassionate, being human in this time of the pandemic. So I think I would like to end my sharing with that.
I think that's a perfect place to stop. Thank you. So we have about 15 minutes. And actually, well, first of all, let me just thank you. That was excellent, really helpful, good insights, and a lot to think about. Thank you. And I think that you brought us to a really good transition of a question that someone posed, which are, what are some strategies that either of you or other students were using to cope and to do self-care, to try to prevent academic fatigue and personal, fatigue? What are some things that you did or are doing for those, to take care of yourself?
Well,
Ariel, go ahead.
Personally, my personal experience, I've always been in front of the computer. So my fatigue by physically was not a problem for me, but I've seen people, my classmates personally, just like their eyes are hurt for long periods of time in front of the computer. And they just didn't have like a lot of a choice, to be honest, because it was really hard and it took time for the body to get used to it. That was more like go through the pain and hopefully it will work out. So it was more like, because it was the only way. And I personally helped as a president of my semester, of my group, in one single subject. Like the final exam was global. So I tried to help them out by doing some little classes, some what I learned. Everyone shared their opinions. So that was a way for me to kind of chill the nerves down, like bring the anxiety a little down. Everyone was so like, how I'm going to study this is too long. How I'm going to do this. Oh my God. And the only way was group. Like we gather in a meeting and talk about it. What have you learned? What you didn't learn? What you don't know? Bring your questions in, and all about that. We just worked together as a group. That was the best way to bring down, to help anyone. And I was always open to, like, you have a question, well, let me know. I'm gonna try and answer it. You don't know something? I'm here. Mm-hmm. So just be open. Everyone was like that, and we were just like typing in chats and if they had any questions. So the best way probably to help your classmates and help yourself, just ask questions, be open, try to be understandable and tolerant. If they don't know, if they just learn together. That's what Nefs is like. Be human. It's the best description of it. We don't need to know everything. So be human.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think anytime we're talking about big changes like this and self-care and how we take care of ourselves, I agree that being willing to be human, to say, I don't know. And as someone who was on the other end, who was the faculty member emergently trying to teach online, I had to say a lot. I don't know how to do that. Do maybe one of you know how to do this? Can you help me? And I think, when I was newer in my career, I was less willing to do that because I wanted to look like the expert. And then as I got older and more comfortable, I was more willing to say, I don't know. What do you guys think? Or, and one thing that I'm proud of that I did when we first moved to online is I checked in very frequently with my classes on what are you doing to take care of yourself. Each and every one of my students, I would ask them to share something when we were really locked down, and so people would say, I'm going for car rides, or I'm riding my bike, or I'm, meditating, or, whatever it was. So, and if they didn't have something, then they got ideas from other people, and at least we were putting it in the forefront of their mind because, Neff, like you said, I really like that idea that we need to have our goal, our value system. What's the point of this in front of us as we are going, right? So another question I have is that it seems like you're both self-motivated, probably why your professors picked you, asked you to be here. So we have a little bias there in our group, but given that you're well aware that not all students are like you, what do you suggest faculty members do to try to engage those less self-directed learners, to try to get them, a little bit more involved, or to, it's different, obviously, when you have your students in class and you can maybe put them in groups or do activities or check in with a student, like you don't really seem very engaged. But with, obviously the distance of the screen and some of the challenges, it's a little harder. So do you have any ideas of things that you think would help students who are a little less engaged?
I think I'd like to share that. I actually don't know why my professor chose me because I have a lot of backlogs and in terms of deliverables. What I'm trying to say is that I think it's something that all of us share, the problem or concern in motivation, like and being able to really do deliver the things that we have to do. So but what I appreciate, which the thing that my professor does, which I appreciate a lot and which helps me go back to those things that I have not yet done for the class, is this sense of openness in the class, that I know that I can always consult my professor in case I need something from her. And during the sessions also she gets to ask us about our concerns. And perhaps if there are opportunities for one-on-one consultations, if you're able to do that, really be able to schedule at least one-on-one meeting with the learner, that learner would feel that he or she matters in the class, and somehow would help him or her get back on track to the course. So I'm not sure if that's even possible to be able to do that, especially if the learners, if the class is big, but really being able to have this personal line of communication with the learners would help.
It may not be easy, but I definitely don't think it's impossible. I mean, I know in my experience, I had pretty large classes, and I would still, if I saw someone missing, or something significant, I would always try to reach out. So I think that's a great idea. Connection and is important. In fact, as much as it's not easy for a faculty member, in the larger classes, it's almost even more important because you can lose people kind of in the cracks, as we say, right? Ariel, anything to add on that, or you? I
think I agree. Like, be open. A lot of people have been struggling these days, and it's really a struggle. Like, it's really uncertainty, and you just have to kind of go through it and accept it. We don't have a choice here. It's COVID's there. Like, we just got to take it. And I think that's for everyone going through rough times. And probably what I could add is I don't know if it fits in. There's a teacher once said that I really liked it. He said, I give to my students 5 books to read, or like to choose from, or to choose or like 5 must read. It's not like a choice. So I think sometimes what we lack, at least in my country, is not we don't read much. So when you make them read and you make them kind of those books, those really deep books that make you think, makes you criticize, makes you kind of think what you want to do. And also those teachers, there are some teachers have that touch. When they speak through the heart, and you're like, I want to be in that class. And probably inspiring, I have probably two side on this class. There was one teacher that would open the PowerPoint, share it, and read it. Straight line, same voice. And I honestly just fell asleep. Like, I personally, like, I don't mind saying it, but I was bored. I also like to learn myself, and I was boring there. So, but other teachers would share the screen and the see PowerPoint very neat, really put their self into it, and they can just the same info that there's in PowerPoint, they can actually share it deeply, and you can ask questions, you can debate with them, and it's amazing. You can learn a lot from just dialogue and talking. And also, there are some teachers, other ways that probably depends on the method, that makes the student go and find out. Like, you got to read this chapter for tomorrow. And that's actually very encouraging. So if you go to the class not reading, you're probably going to lose a lot of information. So I find that useful. But that's, again, depends on the student to know if he wants to read it or not. That's what happens. Some people just didn't read throughout the whole semester, and then at the end of the semester, when there's finals, I gotta help people that didn't read. And it was like, it's like I can't do miracle, but I can help you out.
Yeah. No, but what's interesting when you're sharing that is, in some ways, it makes me think. There's no magic bullet. In some ways, there's not actually a huge difference with what you're saying in terms of online versus in person, right? Because
I personally don't think so.
Yeah, because if I'm the instructor and I'm right in front of you and I'm just reading from the PowerPoint, you still could fall asleep. I mean, maybe I could walk over and nudge you, but still, you're not engaged. But if I'm online, and I agree with what you said there, Ariel, like if I'm saying, well, when I was a probation officer, or when I worked in a treatment center, or, I'm sharing examples, or I'm sharing real life applications, or, if it's clinical, we're practicing a skill, you can do those things in person or online. Now, certainly online, we have a session coming later with, Neff, with your esteemed professor this afternoon on gamification of learning, and there are some neat things you can do. But even barring that, the engagement either way, whether you're in person or you're online, has to happen. If you're just putting out the information, then, as you say, it's a lot of that's just going to be the student gets what they put in. They get out of it what they put into it. Yeah. Where if you are more engaging, you might get those students who aren't that motivated, but they get motivated.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And the only thing, I started 6 months ago a presidential class, and going back to it was insane. And I was like, I can focus more here. Wow, there's a huge difference. That's probably the only significant difference I would remark. That is, I can properly sit down here, see the person who's talking, and focus better. That's probably the focus, the capability of focusing someone that is in front of you personally, like in a personal format, that is amazingly increased. But in a screen, it's kind of rough, but you can do it. You can get the attitude to do it. It's all about the attitude. Like, get into I want to learn this. But also the teacher has to put the attitude to, I want to teach a student.
Mm-hmm.
So he can
but
be
that is a great point, Ariel, because, even myself, as a professional working from home, am I fully like looking at this person in the meeting on Zoom, or am I, distracted by other things around me? So that's certainly human nature. But again, I guess the goal is if I have you engaged in, if I'm in a breakout room, or if we're doing an activity, or if I need to, like you said, debate, or one thing I did was like teach backs. So I would give each of my students part of the topic that they had to teach to the class. So, whether they liked it or not, they had to engage. And once that came up on the test, they were experts at it, because they taught it to us. So they may not have always enjoyed it, but it was effective, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. 2 or 3 of my teachers did that. And you probably didn't like this, the theme you you got, but it's like, okay, I gotta learn it. Like it's like COVID. It's like, I'm gonna take it. Like I don't have a choice.
Right. This is the hand we were dealt, right?
Yeah.
Well, I am going to wrap up. I am so grateful for both of you for spending your time with us today. I think it's really valuable to everyone who joined us, and this is also recorded, so people in the future will be able to watch and listen and learn from you both. And it's really neat that we have the different parts of the world and yet really similar experiences and reflections. So I think that says a lot, and I'm just so grateful to both of you. Thank you for your time.
Same. I appreciate for the invite.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Same. Have a good one.